wrestling, when it's done right, it could be your main event for every show for an entire month. As long as it's just complete impact, I think he would have been better off. Enzo's best runs were against people who could counter his brashness, his talkativeness. Who go, oh, she did the nice thing, and I'm going, no, she's asserting her dominance.
You know it's good when the person that's supposed to be the good guy gets booed. They boo him because he's basically like, what are you doing?
And hello, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Stuart Vine and welcome to episode 3 of my NXT Black and Gold review series where I look at every NXT Black and Gold pay-per-view from NXT Rival to NXT Takeover 36. And obviously in this edition we're on NXT Takeover Fatal 4-Way. There's obviously built up around the Fatal 4-Way for the NXT Championship with obviously Adrian Neville defending his title against Sami Zayn, Tyler Breeze and Tyson Kidd. Little bit, we are also Charlotte defending her NXT Women's Championship against Bayley. We also had the Ascension defending their NXT Tag Team Championships against the Lucha Dragons. And also we had Kenta making his kind of big announcement, his debut on NXT and much, much more. Yes, obviously, as you can see, obviously I'm not doing this alone. I'm going to do it with a good friend of mine, wrestling fan as myself, across the pond with Angel Pena. Loved chatting to him about this with this pay-per-view. Obviously, I've always wanted to chat wrestling with him properly, like in a podcast format. And obviously, this series was an excuse to do that. But yes, if you want to, and there's a good chance, obviously, when I really would like to bring back more and more in this series. So don't be surprised if you see more in this review series of NXT Black and Gold Era. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. That'd be appreciated. But yeah, without further ado, let's go over to myself and Angel Pena talking about NXT Takeover Fatal 4-Way. Let's go.
Hello, everyone. I am Angel Pena. Listen, let's be gentle with Stu. Skype does a very poor job of displaying the last names. They don't even have the decency to put the little squiggly line, the tilde over the N in my name. It's okay. It's Angel Pena. So happy to be here. And by the way, may I just quickly throw out, as you were doing the opening, why not call this program Stuart Irvine Takes Over, right? Because you're covering takeovers. I'm just saying, it's right there, low-hanging fruit.
This
and
is
a man
why
of my age, almost in my 40s, trust me, I know about low-hanging fruit.
This is why I think I needed you on the podcast, man. Like on the video, because it's so obvious, but it's so obvious I didn't notice it. So it's like I think I needed someone.
It works.
I might do that, but yeah, maybe that might be the name for the next one. We don't know, but for this one, I kind of just called it Let's Talk about, and then put Let's Talk about NXT Black and Gold, because when you think of NXT Black and Gold, what do you think? You think of Triple H's era as NXT running NXT basically. So, but yeah. Interesting pay-per-view I picked because I seem to be doing this when I've got guests. I always pick the pay-per-view. Was it the mildly okay one before we get to the one that everyone remembers? So, I did one. What was it? I done WrestleMania 2000 with a friend, but everyone remembers Backlash because that's when Stone Cold came back. But I could have chose that one, but I decided to do a podcast talking about WrestleMania 2000. As we all know, is not the greatest one of all time.
It's not, but look, I'm gonna date myself here. I'm 5 years older than you. That WrestleMania 2000 is still a nostalgic WrestleMania for me. Here in New York, because that's where I'm speaking to you from. It's a very WWE town. Right, I still remember all the advertising, a McMahon in every corner, and everybody was like, "Ooh, there's a McMahon in every corner," and that very weird two falls. It's for the Intercontinental Championship. It's for the European Championship match that they had with Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho, and the name that got redacted through time. Yeah, that was just a WrestleMania where it felt like we have two top-heavy matches. And then here's the other stuff we have, because there's no Stone Cold and there's no Undertaker, and we're doing our best. We are doing our best. But it's fine. It's fine. I mean, now that I think of it, though, WrestleMania 2000 and WrestleMania 17 back-to-back are years where Vince McMahon aligned himself with whoever he wanted as champion. And I've never actually thought about that before. Okay.
That's crazy.
See?
Yeah,
That was good.
But
I like that.
But when obviously we've we go back to NXT the takeover. Yeah, this is obviously we're watching it. Obviously, do you remember watching it back then? Because obviously it was quite. What was it?
Ooh.
NXT was a bit new back then. So what was it?
This is 2014, right? So I actually did not watch this until the following year when I got the WWE Network, because I had decided to walk away from WWE for a while. So yeah, 2015 was like me coming back to watching wrestling at all after regularly watching wrestling. I'm not going to count WrestleMania because everyone watches WrestleMania every year. Yeah. But yeah, I was on a long hiatus. But this show, when I finally did watch it upon my return to getting interested again full-time in wrestling, it was funny because I felt like as I was watching this show, I was getting hints of like the silly booking and like of the mid 90s where like everyone's gimmick was a little too over the top, but then you see the in-ring talent and the wrestlers who were inspired by like more work rate and more technical stuff. So you got a blend of that. And as we'll get into it a little bit later, I ended up seeing one of my old college buddies featured on this program. So we'll talk about that as well.
Okay, I can't wait. Can't wait to talk about it, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, for me, this is a strange one because obviously I think we just got the network. I think because you guys got it way before we did, and I think like
I'm sorry about that.
I mean, yeah, it kind of sucked at the time because we saw the announcements and they were doing the $9.99. They were plugging the hell out of it, and us in the UK were like, well, we can't get it over here. We've got to go to traditional and start watching it on, pay like 30 quid for like watching it on like Sky Box Office and stuff.
I remember that.
Oh, those days. Like I never used to watch, never been able to watch pay-per-views.
So wait a minute. Like pay-per-views now called premium live events for you guys was around $30.
Well, kind of, exaggerate a little bit, but it's just like it wasn't like before, obviously. Network,
because I was gonna say over here at some point, like in the mid 2000s, you wanted to watch a WWE pay-per-view, it was $55 American, like USD. So they were definitely price gouging us.
You could say that, yeah. I mean, I think it's like, I forget what it was like because obviously when the network came along, and then obviously basically it's just you pay 10 quid or okay, what about here, and then you just basically get to watch all the pay-per-views, all the old, everything basically, actually there, everything basically for 10 quid. It was a bargain. But obviously I remember because I think I was at uni at this point, or just about finishing university, and I remember watching the match I remember the most is obviously the one that this is the main event of this one, obviously the Fatal 4-Way. I remember loving it and watching it back. I reminded myself why I love this, but the main event, because that was a pretty awesome main event. I've got to be honest, but it's I mean, because obviously what's actually Takeover, and obviously the bit with was it Sami Zayn and Tyler Breeze in that match.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like, oh, so this Tyler Breeze, he's not just a pretty face then, he's actually quite good in the ring apparently. I think
I'm gonna spend a big chunk praising Tyler Breeze when we get to the main event of Fatal 4-Way, because it was refreshing in rewatching this before we recorded to go, wow, that guy had so much potential. If only Triple H were running things sooner, maybe we could have gotten a more mature, grounded evolution of his gimmick, right? Of the presentation of Tyler Breeze.
Yeah.
And it could have worked out longer for him. Who would have thought? I don't know. But.
Yeah, I mean, only thing about it though, as much as it would have been nice, if we had that happen, we never would have got the fashion police, and that was really entertaining. Or were you the one that wasn't entertained by that?
I was entertained by it, but okay. So the reason why I gave that deep sigh is, I know a lot of Fandango is an entertaining dude, but I saw at least for me, Tyler Breeze's charisma with, again, how he's presented, how he's rolled out to the audience, and his in-ring, maybe I invested myself a little bit in the idea of his potential. And that's why where I saw his potential going doesn't necessarily align with the Fashion Police, right? To me, the Fashion Police is a gimmick where he's like 10 years into his WWE run and he needs to be a little bit safer in the ring, take less bumps, be more of a gimmick. Let's look at R-Truth, right? To me, R-Truth is doing exactly what he needs to be doing. I'm going to go out once a month, take bumps, but you'll see me every week making you laugh. Like, that to me is the Fashion Police gimmick. And to throw that so early in Tyler Breeze's career, to me it sped up his eventual death in the company. If you catch my drift.
Yeah, I have to admit, after that kind of died down, it kind of, I don't know, more of enhancement talent at that point. It's just you put him against, they kind of knew that he was quite good at the ring, so they put him against guys that he can make them look good, I guess. But yeah, I mean, but then, as you said, it would have been nice if Triple H was around a bit earlier. Would have been, because he would have respected him a bit more. Because in this pay-per-view, I can see the guy's pretty awesome. He's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess the only downside to watching all the NXT takeovers is basically looking at of all the people going, that could have been something, that could have been a cool thing, that could have gone well if they booked it right.
Oh, we're definitely gonna have that with, let's see, at least 3 of these matches. I'm gonna go, look what they could have done. But look, I think the great thing about watching NXT in the early years was you felt like you had an opportunity to get it on the ground floor, right? You don't want to be one of the last people to arrive at a conclusion of, oh, something is wonderful. You want to feel that investment really early on and get those feelings validated when everyone else sees what you see, right? And I think that's one thing that wrestling fans feel so intensely is when you attach yourself to a star who's like at the very beginning. Like for me, I'll give one of my more recent examples, Drew McIntyre. When he was brought in as like Vince's chosen one, I looked at him and you could still see he was too young, right? He didn't look like a grown adult, gruff ass kicker the way he looks now.
Yeah.
But I saw different things, like kind of like what I saw in Randy Orton, like the smarmy bastard personality, kind of felt like he was better than everybody. And I was like, I like this. Take me on this ride here. I like this. And, you know, you kind of saw it early on. And then for whatever reason, people stopped believing him in the company and he had to work his way back up. But now he's where I always thought he would be. And so I'm enjoying that. I'm taking my little victory laps when people talk about how great he is. I'm like, all right, I was there from the beginning. And on this card, you see that with certain talents. You definitely see it in the women's championship match with someone that I have been on board with from the very beginning. And you're going to roll your eyes at me because you know exactly who I'm talking about. No, it's not the challenger. I've been on that Charlotte train since day one. But we'll get to that later.
I mean, we'll get to that because makes it sound like I hate you. I don't. It's just, anyway, it's a whole thing. We'll get to that when we get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. I mean, it's fascinating because it's obviously with this pay-per-view, it's obvious because obviously we know where they're going to go with the whole, like, the NXT we love was obviously the 4 or 5 matches, all just basically, PWG type style matches, just a lot of moves, a lot of kickouts, a lot of awesome kind of stuff like that. But obviously you see here, it's kind of like, it's fascinating to look back and look at like,
oh yeah, it's
kind of traditional in a way because obviously it's like it's built and it's called Fatal 4-Way, and ironically they built everything to the main event. That's kind of I mean, obviously that's how all pay-per-views work, but like it was very obvious because of you don't call a pay-per-view Fatal 4-Way unless it's exactly the main event is the Fatal 4-Way. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it was just fascinating to watch. It felt like you had the really fun opener. You had the squash match. You had a really fun kind of comedic match that I would say was fun, depending on your taste, I guess. And then kind of semi-main 2 main events that are really fun. That's kind of, it had a bit of everything, you would say. I would say.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, no, there's something to like for everyone here on this card, and I think. Sorry, my assistant over here is doing a very poor job of watching his sister. There's something to like for everyone here because, oh God, his sister's here. Go with your brother. Yes, good. I'm distracting her with Nickelodeon. Parenting skills. Yeah, look, there's something to enjoy here because if you're a fan of tag team wrestling, especially how it's been presented in the last 20 years, you definitely got that in the very beginning. Now, I might be a bit of a curmudgeon. I might be a little grumpy with that first opening match, but it's fine. Then you get, if you like squash matches, you get a squash match on this card. You get a hair versus hair match. You get, a match where, I'm going to say this. The match in the middle of the show, Bull Dempsey versus Mojo Rawley, they're obviously trying to get a feel for, does the crowd care about either of these guys? That's one of those matches they go, look, run this. Like, here's what we want you to do. And then that's just one of those matches. I watch the crowd more than I watch the match. I'm like, who are they reacting to here? Because I'm probably a harsher critic than you. I'm usually a harsher critic than everyone else. And then you get absolute gold in the last 2 matches. For what NXT is supposed to be, those last 2 matches represent everything about what a developing, movement NXT became in the last 2 matches, which I think that's how you want to end a show. You want to end it on the high note.
Oh, 100%. I think it's definitely, I think it's one, what this pay-per-view, it's always going to be remembered for, I think, obviously for the name of the pay-per-view, the Fatal 4-Way. But yeah, obviously that Charlotte Bayley match was very, it was like if only they gave him an extra 10 minutes, it would have been even better. But you can see when you know where they're going to go and you watch that match, you can kind of sit there and say, okay, I can appreciate this match.
I will also just throw in the side note. I think I have to blame TNA for this. Tell me if I'm wrong. I get very tired of all the pay-per-view names being, this is what our main event is. I miss, we have okay, so spoiler alert, I don't know when this will drop, but Elimination Chamber is this upcoming week for both you and I right now. Yeah. I miss when it was No Way Out. What's wrong with No Way Out? And then that's just where Elimination Chamber happens. I like Fatal 4-Way, I feel like there was just a better workaround. Like Fully Loaded. This is how old I am. I remember WWF Fully Loaded. Why can't that be the pay-per-view where you have multi-person matches? Because it's fully freaking loaded. I'm just saying. Sorry.
To be fair to NXT though, this is probably the only one they actually called by an actual match type, if I remember correctly, except for maybe War Games. I know, but that's
War Games. I would be fine with every show being called War Games. I love that. I love that name. I'm married to that name. I'm good with that.
War Games is great, but yeah, but again, it went through like a thing in the 2010s or something or whatever, where basically we had literally a Fatal 4 where we had TLC, we had Hell in a Cell, we had all that kind of stuff. We were like, okay, can't we just, and because it's called Hell in a Cell, or that has to have 2 or 3 Hell in a Cell matches or something, it was just overdone.
It's overkill. Yeah, and by the way, I blame TNA because they had the lockdown pay-per-view, every match contested in a steel cage. I'm like, why? Just give me 2 cage matches. Just give me 2.
True, but it made them unique. I have to admit, it made them unique back then. But yeah,
it made them unique. But it's okay. So on the sports program where we talk mostly U.S. sports here that I do with my podcasting partner Lewis, he is enamored with throwing 2000 at the end of everything. So you bring up WrestleMania 2000 in a conversation, and he'll talk about how he loved that era of everything having 2000 at the end of it. Every title having 2000. And it's just, I like creative names. All right, I love the old Bring back Armageddon. Why can't WWE do a pay-per-view called Armageddon? Those stages that they had for Armageddon were fire. Literally, they were on fire. I love them. All right, No Mercy. Vengeance.
Backlash.
I mean, I know NXT has Vengeance. Backlash. They brought it back. I couldn't be happier. But no. Okay, well, I'm sorry. We're here to talk about NXT Takeover Fatal 4-Way. All right.
So basically, what you're saying is basically if you were going to book a show and you were going to do it, you wouldn't call it by if the main event had a stipulation. That's basically what you're saying.
No, listen, there are so many kick-ass like names. WWE Bloodlust, and then you already know the main event is a first blood match. There we go. Just Bloodlust. Why not?
No.
Like I can come up with a million things that sound aggressive and still cooler than naming it after the main event. But either way, I gotta calm myself. Let's go. This is your show.
Yeah, it's fine, mate. I mean, it's the reason we did this because it's obviously just it's always great talking to about wrestling with you. So I thought utilize this as an excuse to do it. You know. So
I appreciate that.
But yeah, so obviously let's start off with you talking about tag. We were talking about the tag team match early on. The first one, obviously, it was was it Ascension? They had like a 344-day run, like basically a year as champions.
Yeah.
Defending against the Lucha Dragons that won in a tag team tournament. I think they beat the Vaudevillains. I think in the final, if I'm correct.
They did.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting this one because obviously we know how good the tag team division is going to get in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
But with this one, it was interesting to see that it was obviously this is the kind of match that basically had a team that was ground and pound, kind of like, very old school wrestling, as you expect, like in the early 2000s and stuff, versus high flyers, luchas. So high flying versus that kind of clash of styles, them kind of styles always work, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
And but yeah, I think I have to admit, I won this match. I really enjoyed it. It was I think it was quite short in a way. It was done its job. It was I mean, obviously we know that, spoiler warning, obviously Lucha Dragons won the titles, but I think my thing for me is why the Ascension kind of had the titles for so long, so they could build up the tag division until they have a worthy tag team to take them. And obviously with the crowd reaction of the Lucha Dragons, it was obvious that they were the right team to do it. But yeah, what's your thoughts on this match watching it back?
So time-wise, I agree with you. They didn't get much time. Although I will say the early takeovers filled a really beautiful niche of like, we're going to give you 6 matches in an hour and a half, and you're never going to feel restless. So I think you need a couple of short matches when your last 2 matches are going to obviously require that amount of time. Had they been given more time, I would have preferred to see the Ascension slow down the pace, really try to grind the Lucha Dragons into the ground, right? Take away their high flying, impose themselves physically. You can't accomplish that in a match that's less than 8 minutes. And so I feel like they did exactly what they needed to do. We need the speed of the Lucha Dragons. We need the unpredictability of the Lucha Dragons to overwhelm our champions. And I think not every champion who gets dethroned in a grand way like Roman Reigns, right? Where it's just a monster buildup and you see it coming. Sometimes, and especially for those of us who are also fans of mixed martial arts, you see people get caught. And I look at this as the Ascension getting caught. They got caught not by getting knocked out in this match. They got caught by taking their eye off the ball and not being able to account for what the Lucha Dragons brought into this situation, into this event. It's very hard to get interested in Sin Cara. I could never do it, especially since I knew it was the second Sin Cara in WWE. I feel bad for Kalisto. I feel like if they had accelerated the LWO thing back then and had him paired up with a Rey Mysterio, even though Rey wasn't in the company, I feel like Kalisto would have had a better run in WWE, right? He could have had that run that Dragon Lee is having with Rey, although Dragon Lee's run could be better. But overall, the match did what it needed to do. I don't love it because I usually grade tag team matches on a harsher curve. I am of the generation. My dad did not like pro wrestling when I was a kid, but he loved and raised me on the Steiners and the Road Warriors. So you kind of guess what I like to see out of tag matches. It's either highly athletic or someone getting their ass kicked. And this doesn't do that in this match, but look, I'm very respectful of wrestlers. It's not easy to do what they do, especially at the higher levels, right? The bigger productions and companies. So I will respectfully say, good match, just not for me. Just not for me.
I get it. I mean, I think it's like for me. At least it's kind of matches I kind of like because it's like when you watched the reason that I really love let's go like AEW, like FTR and the Young Bucks, is because it's two different styles, and it kind of like got kind of old school kind of like tag team wrestling versus obviously people that do high flyers, over the top super kicks, like over the top stuff, and it kind of they just mesh well because also it's easy to follow as well when they've got different styles. If they've both got the same styles, then it's just basically it gets confusing.
Yeah, I agree. Clashing is better. I will also say the reason why the Ascension could never hit for me on an interest level is I'm looking at two guys who look like they could be mob enforcers, and they're playing up this. What was this? An Egyptian gimmick? Like I'm looking at them and I'm like, neither one of you look at like you've ever been to Egypt. So what are we doing here with all these markings?
Well,
I don't get it.
I mean, we know. Let's be honest. We all know what they were the gimmick was supposed to be. It was basically supposed to be like another Legion of Doom or another Demolition type thing.
Yeah, but you can only do so many like end of the world gimmicks. This card alone had the Ascension. It has Baron Corbin, who originally started out as an end of the world gimmick. We're gonna see as NXT goes on the arrival and rise of Aleister Black and just gimmick the Authors of Pain. It's like, why are so many people preparing for war but showing up to a wrestling company? Like, this is the end of the road for like.
It just, I get it. It's just because it's like especially when you know where they went when they were called up. It's like. What was it? The bit when they were basically all the big tag team. Well, it was an anniversary special, and they got destroyed by like the APA and all that kind of DX and all that, and it was all just. But I mean,
that's gotta suck. That's gotta suck. Working your ass off as an up and coming wrestler, and I'm just gonna say this: we all know the accusations against John Layfield, against Bradshaw. Not being the nicest guy. That's gotta suck to be told. We want you to go out in the ring and take his stiff ass work and make it look good. Wait, what? Yeah, he's gonna hit you as hard as he can. That's gotta suck. I don't know if have.
And also, I remember that because it's just like I remember we were all like, so what's the point of this? To get over people that are already over? Like it made no sense. And
did it make sense? But did it make sense when DX came out and like totally took the piss out of what was it? The Revival. Remember when they dressed down the Revival? It was like old school Raw, and I'm like. These guys are supposed to be your future tag greats. Why are you tearing them down? This does not compute, and I don't like this.
I know, it's just. But to be fair, we all know back then it was Vince didn't actually look at tag team wrestling as possibly the way tag team wrestling is looked at now in WWE.
And I will say, tag team wrestling isn't even like looked that great in WWE right now. But I absolutely love tag team wrestling when it's done right. It could be your main event for every show for an entire month as long as it's done right.
It's like
it hurts my feelings when it's not done right. Take it personally.
I get it. I think it's interesting watching this NXT stuff and just like when Triple H, to be fair, it was never like a main event, but at some point it does help if you've got the right teams, as well. Because obviously in this era.
And eventually, they do get the right teams.
I mean, obviously, anyone watch Revival DIY, watch that again. I think that's on my list now and then, just to remind me why I love pro wrestling. I think it's on that list, surely.
I got to be there for their first match at Takeover Brooklyn. I got to see that, and that was really special.
Oh, wow.
That match owned the crowd. Like, people were, like, happy to see Bobby Roode against Andrade. They were happy that Shinsuke, won in the main event. But that match had the crowd. I remember sitting in Barclays and really like looking around and like, okay, this I'm watching something special. So yeah, eventually we get to a place here at NXT where we go from Lucha Dragons against Ascension, and the game completely elevates, a few years, like 2 years down the line from there. So
obviously after that we talked about it briefly with Baron Corbin versus CJ Parker, as we all know him as now as Juice Robinson. But basically,
by the way, Juice Robinson, better name.
Oh, it's 100%
better name.
And also, one thing I found about this gimmick is like it shows how times have changed. It's basically the guy that wants to save the planet is the bad guy.
Well, I mean, they did the same thing with Daniel Bryan. Just don't be preachy, right? Don't tell us to recycle, you son of a bitch.
I know. I just find it funny because it's just like it shows how gimmicks have changed over the years. It's like because back then it was just like
the funny thing. So for me, the save the planet thing completely went over my head, and I just looked at him. I was like, "Is this what Triple H thinks a hipster from the West Coast of the United States acts like? Like, is this what he thinks a hippie looks like? That he doesn't bathe and his hair looks like that? Like, and I don't know. I didn't like his presentation. I think we've seen what he becomes, as Juice Robinson, and we're like, okay, Triple H, you maybe missed the ball on that. Quick question though. Did Baron Corbin have music for this match? Because I feel like I missed his entrance.
I don't think he did. I think
he did it.
What's even funnier when you think about it now is basically he got the jobber entrance without the music, and he won.
And he squashed CJ Parker.
I remember this like it was yesterday because everyone was like, I think online was like, oh my god, that end of days finisher is awesome. Like the way he just hit it was devastating. Interesting fact, I think only one person's ever kicked out of it, and I think it was it Drew McIntyre? Might have been
WrestleMania 38. Yeah, WrestleMania 38. But wasn't he at that point Happy Corbin?
I think so. I got to be honest. At that point, he went from was it this one? Then he went to was it I can't remember.
Constable Corbin.
Yep, and then he was blamed for basically why Raw sucked, and it wasn't him. But if you want to go there, and then he became my kind of favorite one is when he became Bumhouse Corbin. Was it Corbin? Was basically he lost all his money.
Bumhouse Corbin was the best. I mean, look, Baron Corbin is an intriguing gimmick and wrestler in WWE lore because you have a guy with the size and the power. He has some speed to him. He has a cool. Not only his end of days cool, Deep Six was a cool move because he could spin the person so quickly it looked more violent than it actually was.
Yeah.
And then he had the theme song he has for this event is whatever. It's just generic back music. But when they gave him that end of days theme song, you remember that? Like it actually had vocals on that. That song was legit. That song was almost as good as Drew McIntyre's his song about dreams. Remember Drew McIntyre's first song?
Yeah, Broken Dreams.
Like those two songs hit so hard. Like those are two great workout songs. They're on my workout playlist. That's how good they are. How do you fumble Baron Corbin? Like I get it. He wasn't great on the mic. That's why this presentation of him on this show was so damn good. Stu, I want your opinion on this. Why do you think not enough wrestling companies use the strong silent type anymore?
I think purely for the fact is we don't really have any kind of like mouthpieces that could speak for them as much as we used to. Because
okay, no, I agree with that. But my whole point is, people will pay millions of dollars or have paid in the past who, for those who go to the cinema. I love movies, so I take every chance to go to the theater, whether a movie's good or not. I am perfectly fine paying for an action film like I will. Jason Statham has a movie coming out called A Working Man. It looks so basic. And yet I will happily go watch a matinee, pay a reduced rate to watch it, because I don't need him to talk. I don't need his gruffly. I don't need the gravel. Give me the gravelly voice when it works. I want to see someone get their ass kicked. I want to see someone go kick someone's ass. Right? That's the whole point of enjoying action. And for me, that's entertaining. Baron Corbin, I think, if he had been a man of few words, but just complete impact, I think he would have been better off. I think he would have been better off because everything else was working.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can only go so far with that, though. I think that's the problem with that kind of gimmicks. Like, you have to, at some point, speak. I mean, at some point, else actually have some sort of more charismaticness than just.
I agree, but I'm just advocating that maybe let him go through his entire NXT run without having to say too much. If you need to, give him a manager, right? They gave the authors of Pain Paul Ellering. Don't tell me you can't get some great from the past. And Paul Ellering was not good with the authors of Pain. Let me just throw that out there. They could have gotten someone. Because the greatest wizard trick WWE ever did post 2000. You see, I threw 2000 in there again. That's because I know Lewis, my podcasting partner, is watching this, so threw that in there for Lewis. No one ever talks about how pairing Ric Flair up with Batista preserved Batista from having to do so much talking until he was absolutely ready. No one ever thinks about that. So why can't you pluck one of the vets? Pluck a vet out of Raw or SmackDown and go, hey, we got this Baron Corbin guy. We just want to have him in your stratosphere. We want to have him around you. And we think it'll make the product better. I'm pretty sure it could have worked.
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I would put you on the spot then. If it's something who could have picked someone, who would have picked? We'll talk about 2014, 15. Who do you think would have worked, Baron Corbin?
Okay, now we're talking. Now, so this is September of 2014. So I'm just going to come backward in time, and I'm going to look at real quick on the main roster. If you needed someone, let's see. Well, Paul Heyman is somewhat active in WWE, but to make someone a Paul Heyman guy is a badge of honor. So I don't necessarily know we need to go do that. If you're invested in him heavily, I don't think there's anything wrong with. You can always ask a Randy Orton, hey, do you mind standing next to this guy once in a while? They did have Zeb Coulter, but he was in the midst of doing his whole, I guess it was America First or anti-everybody else who's not American gimmick, so I don't know how that would have landed. I feel like they were so enamored, because this is Bray. 2014 is one of Bray Wyatt's years. That was one of the years you definitely felt the heavy investment in him. So I'm gonna ask you to get back to me on that one another time, because you asked a fair question. You caught me with my pants down. Thanks, mate.
Hey, well, you brought it up. I had to if you I had to ask, because it would have been interesting. But yeah, I did put you on the spot a little bit there, to be honest.
Actually, no. You know what? Okay. No, I didn't even find one. I'm making up one because we're talking about him. Who did they try to pair Baron Corbin with before they finally gave up on him? It was a guy who was considered an asshole in the back. JBL. You bring back JBL and have him stand next to Baron Corbin. That's it. You have a guy.
Could have been a paid
with
enforcer.
All arrogance. Wait. Yeah. No, not even. JBL with his Texan accent. See, they paired them up way too late. They paired them up after we saw Vince make Baron Corbin meaningless. And by the way, I think, I don't know how many people will agree with me on this. I think having Baron Corbin retire Kurt Angle hurt Baron Corbin more than anything else in this world. Because people like me will never forgive it. I will never forgive that move. But JBL coming out like a monstrous asshole, talking about how this man's the future, being his mouthpiece, boom, done. Saved my ass at the very end.
And also, when you think about it, though, wasn't JBL kind of the GM of NXT for a little while? So it could have been a thing where he said, he can sit there and say, oh, at NXT, when I was GM, there's many, he can, completely ridicule the entire roster. He can sit there and say, but there was one guy that I wish if I just had a bit more time, I wish I would have. And they could have brought Baron Corbin out, and that would have been, it would have made him go, wow, this guy's legit. But yeah, I didn't think that. JBL's a good pick, got to be honest, back then, because obviously it was kind of mildly still relevant, I think, in 2014, I think.
Don't tell JBL that. He'll always tell you he's always relevant.
Yeah, he just seems like a kind of guy.
I said he'll always tell you he's relevant. I don't necessarily agree with him.
I mean, if anything, because that TNA stuff where he just kind of turned up, didn't say much, and then kind of went. That was a weird one. I didn't get that.
I still don't get the association they're doing in TNA with JBL and Dolph Ziggler. Well, Ryan Nemeth.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh God, I forgot which Nemeth he is. Ziggler. I'm going with Ziggler, and I'm sticking.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, I'm sticking with that.
It's like there's a certain person when we talk about him later that basically they changed his name, but I'm always going to call him his original name.
By the way, we spent more time talking about Baron Corbin than this match actually went.
Pretty much. It was like we're blinking.
It was 29 seconds.
It literally was like blinking, you miss the situation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, what was it? Just the match, it was just like, was it CT Pride got a little bit of offense, then obviously Baron Corbin had enough, hit the end of days, won, then some music hit, and he walked out. That's pretty much what happened. I mean, give CJ Parker or Juice Robinson credit. He did sell it really well. Because he looked like he was completely knocked out. It's great.
I don't know. If I was Juice, I would have cussed somebody out. I don't know. But now we're going. What were you going to say?
I was about to say, I'm sure he left quite after this match. I'm sure of it. I'm sure this is like he left the company quite early on after this. I'm sure.
Yeah.
So maybe this is what done it. He's like, I've had enough of this, and he went.
Yeah, and no one would blame him. But now we're heading to match 3, and now this is where things get interesting for me, because I get to see someone who I knew pretty well in college. He wasn't in the match, but he was definitely there to be seen, and that would be one Colin Cassidy. You know what? Whatever. People can Wikipedia him.
Big
Real
Cass.
name William Morrissey, Big Cass, now Big Bill. Grew up in Queens, New York, and was one of my college classmates. We were both pre-med, and he was actually on the New York University men's basketball team. I think he was the center or the backup center. And the one thing about NYU is back when we were in college, most of the athletes worked at the main gym, right? That's a great student job to have. Like, you're in the gym anyway. You can work out while they're paying you. Now, you might be wondering, well, then how the hell did you, Angel, work in the gym? I was in the equipment room, right? Me and my arthritic knees were getting everyone's equipment ready. Now, you might wonder, was that a bad job? No, because the equipment room is where most of the ladies who worked at the gym worked. And so you might call me a genius. You might call me a very smart man because I knew where to be. Plus, being in the equipment room they left me in charge of all these sport drink machines. I had the key. So, hey,
Okay.
I had a Gatorade whenever I felt like it. No, I had to earn that. I had to earn the respect of the guy who was in charge of the keys before he let me play with the keys. But yeah, I knew Will pretty great. Again, big Cass here, Colin Cassidy. Big time wrestling fan. So it came as a shock to no one, that he ended up really pursuing wrestling and making that his thing. Was he always the nicest guy? It depended on the mood you caught him in. But I think you need that as a wrestler, right? You have to have that a-hole in you, right? To know when to turn it on, because I feel like that's the switch you have to actually engage in physicality. And he wasn't in this match. Enzo Amore was, and I will forever hate Enzo Amore because it was at WrestleMania, not WrestleMania, SummerSlam 2016. They were doing a signing here in New York, and I got to catch up with Cass. That was great. And Enzo decided to give a sly, flirtatious remark at my wife, and I almost booted him in the face. I don't know whether he lives that gimmick or if he's that stupid, but he wanted to holler at my wife, and I wasn't having it.
Fair enough.
But yeah, Enzo wins this match. It's a hair versus hair, right? It doesn't even go 6 minutes there. And I think the bigger story is the guy who didn't even lose this goddamn match got his hair cut.
I mean, I'll be honest. Yeah, that annoyed me when I watched it. It's like there's clear defining rules in matches like this.
Oh yeah.
Where the person that loses the match basically loses their hair. It's pretty self-explanatory. And what I hate about this match is basically either was it Sylvester Lefort was like, no, I'm good, because he actually wanted to keep his hair. Then I would sit there and say, well, why have the match in the first place? Or just they thought, well, it'd be funnier if the other guy got it. It's like, no, the whole point of the match is that the loser loses their hair. If they went by that logic, then Kurt Angle would have got away. And he, like, when Edge versus Kurt Angle, and Kurt Angle would have went away. And then it just would have been like somebody random person that Edge found and then just made them bald. But it's just, yeah. And then what also annoys me is the idea that no one got their hair shaved, and they did. And then they had another segment that was unnecessary to go back and have a segment when he found out, we must see the bald guy's bald head. It's
this match was more about setting up segments. You're right about that. I didn't care for it.
I don't know. It just felt off. I don't know. You can maybe say about just having matches on it. Maybe it's going to be so used to NXT, but it's just like I'm kind of glad they got rid of stuff like this in NXT, because it's just like there was nothing really going on. The crowd were kind of into it because obviously Enzo and Cass were kind of over at that point. Matches as a whole, it was. I just call this a weird feud. It felt very strange. I don't know. I mean,
would you agree with me that a lot of times interest in a wrestling match, in a wrestling program, it comes down to the chemistry of the two opposing sides?
I'm saying,
like, yeah. Like, I feel like you're only as good for those of you who engage from time to time in dancing, which I am forced to because my wife insists that date night always involves going out to dance. You're only as good as your dance partner, which means I'm excellent, which means my wife is terrible because I'm terrible and she's excellent. Okay. There's no chemistry here between Enzo and Sylvester. Enzo's best runs were against people who could counter his brashness, his talkativeness. I feel like Big Cass, now Big Bill, even in his AEW run right now, he is struggling to find the right opposition for himself. Because I don't think anyone understands how to take what he can do and really make it look its best. And, can kind of coach him up in how they want him to take their set of offense. That wrestling to me is always give and take, give and take. This match had no give and take. It was, again, like you had asserted and I pointed out, this match was to set up segments, and it's fine. It's the comedy thread of the entire takeover. Look, I'm gonna say again, didn't do anything for me, but it is what it is.
I mean, what also I find interesting is, well, obviously don't do this now, is basically they played up that a man that is bald is funny. That I guess you wouldn't be able to, yeah. So like, obviously, I guess it then being bald was funny, but I guess, but it's not. It's like, okay.
I think when you have, okay, so Stu, you only met me when Mother Nature had already taken my hair.
Okay.
I lost my hair. Well, I had the Macho Man giant bald spot in the back by like 32. Let's say 31. And so I shaved my head. Okay, if I didn't, I'd probably look like Rick from Rick and Morty right now, right? All this wild hair in the back springing out and then really nothing up top. So I just shaved my head to, if it's good enough for my heroes, Kurt Angle and Stone Cold, it's good enough for me. All right, I can live with that. But I think when you have beautiful flowing hair, which neither guy in this match had, that's where it sucks. It made sense for Edge, right? Edge, like he looked like that rock star, long hair. It makes sense for that. If you had a hair versus hair match with Chris Jericho in the late 90s, it would make sense, you know?
Yeah.
I'll give you a wrestler who right now, if you put him in a hair versus hair match, you could sell tickets if you just made it the main event. Dominic Mysterio. Go ahead and tell people that Dominic is at risk of losing his WCW Eddie Guerrero mullet, and people will pay to watch that. That's where a hair versus hair match matters, right? Because he's so just dastardly. You know what? I would go as far, if I'm booking him to lose that match, I'd have someone shave his mustache off too, just as a punishment. You know,
proper goal, all for it. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, to be fair, if you were going to go by hairstyles, you would probably want Enzo Amore to lose this match, because that whole hair stuff, that was it with the.
That's just what the WWE thought people from New Jersey look like, and they weren't wrong.
Okay.
Look, you have to understand, us in New York, we look down upon New Jersey. That's just, they're just to the right of us, like just to our right side, and they're not all that great. It's geographical rivalry, right? I'm sure you guys have that over there.
Yeah, I'll give you that. We've got some, obviously where we live. Obviously, we do have, you know, we all have it.
European, look, Premier League, right? No, you have so many historical towns with these amazing clubs, and they all dislike each other just based on football alone. So there you go, New York, New Jersey. Except it's not about sports. It's just they're off there, you know, trying to ride our coattails. That's all.
Okay, fair. But yeah, I mean, I have to. I was just looking at her hair, and I was like, oh, "Come on, like, what is that?" Like,
yeah, look, it was a waste. It was a waste. It was a comedy thing that it doesn't land for this show. And I don't know. I feel like maybe this decision was made because they also had to mask the following match. You know, that I've met Bull Dempsey. He wrestles locally here in New York a lot. I believe he's from the area. We have a mutual acquaintance who will usually book Bull Dempsey for like watch parties here in New York City, like in the area. So I've met him a couple of times. Really nice guy. But at this point, was he and Mojo Rawley getting any attention in terms of their development? I don't think so. Because I told you before we started recording, I watched this match for the crowd. I'm looking at this crowd and I'm like, who cares? I want to see someone really invested in these two athletic-looking guys.
Yeah.
Do something, and I didn't. And it was sad. And
I mean, to be fair with this match, it's like, I don't know why. I think they tried everything with. I don't know why I've got this vibe. I might be wrong with Bull Dempsey. It feels like they were trying to do another Rhino for some reason. I don't.
So I will tell you, for me, it's very hard to make anyone look like Rhino, because my investment in that ECW era comes from, you know, I had this really amazing uncle, and, you know, he's no longer with us, but he got me into ECW. And when you look at that era of Rhino up and coming, you see this solid mass of muscle, right? That's not Bull Dempsey. If you want to tell me that, it's escaping me right now. He's a Samoan wrestler in New Japan. That sometimes he works for AEW. Why am I skipping out on it? He was in the same stable as Will Ospreay. And no. What was it? United Empire? Is that the stable?
Oh yeah.
He played Matanzo Cueta in Lucha Underground. I'll find it right now.
Yeah, I think
I'll find it right now. If you tell me that guy is
I think for me,
Jeff Cobb,
that's the one. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
If you tell me you're gonna do a Rhino gimmick with Jeff Cobb with a man built like that, okay. But here's where, again, my sensibilities of wrestling are always going to be different. I have stood next to Bull Dempsey. Nice guy. I cannot buy into a wrestler whose calves are smaller than mine. And I say that, again, all of you, for those of you watching this, and by the way, thank you for watching this on the Stuart Irvine YouTube channel. See, that's a plug right there.
Okay.
I am 5'8". I'm on the chubbier side, but you wouldn't know it because I am broad-shouldered. I'm a Lego man. I am a circular head on a square body. So my lower body is pretty developed because it has to account for my upper body weight. All right?
Okay.
So when I stand next to a Bull Dempsey in the summer and he's in shorts and I'm in shorts and I'm seeing my calves are twice the size of his and I don't do leg workouts because everyday walking is a leg workout for my fat backside. That is where I do not buy into a Bull Dempsey. Okay. It's one thing to talk about my former college buddy Cass, who is legitimately tall, who is legitimately muscular. Like, you couldn't avoid noticing him walking through the NYU gym, Cole's gym back in the day. Everyone noticed him. He was the tallest guy in the building. It made sense, right? That's why they pointed out how tall he was, and you can't teach them. I like Bull Dempsey in terms of he loves the wrestling business. I do not like the presentation of Bull Dempsey. And even worse, Mojo Rawley, whose presentation, I feel like they looked at former NFL player Rob Gronkowski and went, and because you've seen them paired together. But Rob Gronkowski is far much more interesting than Mojo Rawley. Mojo Rawley was never interesting.
I mean, you can only go so far with the old. I'm hyped. I'm just always hyped. Like, okay, cool. I mean, it's fun, entertaining to a point. But what else could you do with that? I think that's the problem.
You know what? It works. It works if you give him a Monster Energy deal and have him walk around with a can of Monster. If he was the guy walking around with an energy drink all the time, people would go, "Okay, I get why he's hyped." You know. And then you evolve that into him having a cocaine habit. Then we know why he's hyped.
Or he
I
has
just wanted to make you laugh with that.
Or do a situation where he has withdrawal. I don't know. It's just like, he could have done something.
Yeah, oh my God. Think of sad Corbin and the happy Corbin. Think of I'm hyped Mojo Rawley into I'm on antidepressants Mojo Rawley.
No,
man, we just that's beautiful.
Maybe we need to get on that. We need to get on that time machine and go on the book and stuff.
Think of the tag team between the two of them. When one's happy, the other one's depressed.
That could work. That could
How
work.
do they ever get on the same page? They need to book this in the indies right now. Baron Corbin is going around by his real name, Tom Peastock. We need to get those two together.
Why not? I mean, hey, if formerly known as Zack Ryder can get over in wrestling with I'm not quite sure whose gimmick is. It's but basically just a guy that turns up and wins titles, right? But if he can get over,
his gimmick again, still he's a Long Island guy, which is attached to New York City. For those of you who don't know, the boroughs of New York City, Brooklyn, and Queens are actually physically attached to Long Island. So for some reason, Long Island is just chopped up into 3 separate entities, and no one knows why. He's still pretty active. You know, he does a lot of shows up here. I just look at his gimmick as, I'm the most famous guy in the indies, and I'm going to show up and kick your ass and sure, try to take your promotion's main title, which I think is a hell of a gimmick.
Oh, I mean, it obviously works. Oh, it's worked, obviously, but yeah, I mean, to be fair, he's got, was it Corbin now? It's like I could see him doing something, or not something like that, but maybe he could do an arrogant thing where he's sitting there going, he thinks he's better than everyone, but then he keeps losing or something like that. So you can have a losing gimmick or something. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking outside the box here, but you can always reinvent yourself in the indies. You've seen so many people do it.
No. Listen, he has one thing going for him. He's a former American football player. That's the thing. Baron Corbin, Mojo Rawley, they got plucked because they didn't make it here in America, you know, in the US playing American football for the NFL, right? They could always just play up the whole, I'm a real athlete. And look at how far I got being a real athlete who didn't grow up with wrestling. If they go about it being the type of guys who naturally just talk down to the fans, right? Those of us who weren't gifted with height, right? I imagine our boy Josh, he's tall, right?
Yes,
I'm just gauging my photos, right? He's over 6 feet tall, right?
Yeah, he's taller than me. I think he's around about just a little bit taller than me, and I'm on about six. Something.
Oh my God, Stu! I'm a hobbit next to you. What the hell?
Yeah, well, to be fair, every time you only see me through a computer screen. To be fair, so
that's true. One day when I make my pilgrimage out of there, I'm gonna have a good time telling the camera person to step back, so that we all fit in the photo, so that I don't get my head cut off. That's pretty good. Damn, here I was thinking, you know, in America, 5'8" is average, so I'm right there. I'm right there. But yeah, I mean, look, this match does nothing for anyone. Bull Dempsey, Mojo Rawley. They had to, in the gorilla position, go, all right, let's see who cares. And nobody cared.
And then they didn't really do anything with both of them. I think Mojo Rawley went up to the main roster at one point, and obviously Bull Dempsey kind of had a little run and then just kind of tailed off, didn't he? I don't think he went.
Well, they tried to give him that whole Simon Dean gimmick of the mid 2000s of bullfit. Hey, Bull, we realize you have a fat belly, which I don't want to be mean to Bull Dempsey because his gut looks the way my gut looks. So I'm just like, oh, come on, stop having him tap his belly. Oh, we're gonna get bullfit. Look at how much weight he lost. Well, you can't do weight loss gimmicks anymore now that everyone's on Ozempic. Okay, like bullfit does not work today. All right.
No.
I got bullfit. I stabbed my ass with some diabetes meds.
It just sometimes it just doesn't work. Let's be honest. You try things, see what happens. But
I'll tell you what does work. I'm going to tell you what does work. These last 2 matches. These last 2 matches are worth the price of admission.
Well, first things first. I think before we have to talk about before the match we just talked about. It's obviously we've got to talk about the Kento announcement. Or
yes. Yes, the announcement. Oh man, so many missed opportunities with talented people they brought in.
Oh, this one hurts because they made such a big deal about it. I think it was like, you could say it was kind of the first proper big signing they made that everyone went, oh, I see what Triple H is trying to do here, type thing. I mean, they obviously when we all kind of liked Hulk Hogan, they made him go to Japan and kind of.
Can I just put the caveat? I never liked Hulk Hogan, and this is gonna make you laugh. You want to know why I never liked Hulk Hogan? So again, me born mid 80s, right? 1986. I'm dating myself here. I could never get into Hulk Hogan because I would look at my dad and go, why am I supposed to be impressed by this bald guy? Don't you see how funny life is? Yeah. I could never buy, and I was always a Macho Man kid. Always a Macho Man kid. So I'm like, who is this guy? I don't like this guy. You know? So sorry.
looks like you had hindsight there, man. Looks like you had hindsight with that.
Mm-hmm.
But they made a big deal. They got him out. They, you know, in Japan. Obviously, I think he was still kind of liked in Japan then. Whatever. Like he was, you know, big deal. Got, you know, was it when we got to come out announce him, have a big announcement. Obviously, he changed his name to a name that there's a reason why he just called him Kenta, because I always mess it up, and I'm glad that he went back to Kenta. Hideo Itami.
Oh, Hideo Itami, which everybody's like, it's easier to give him the one-word name. Like, what the hell are we doing?
Why? I mean, this is when they had to copyright copyright everything. So like they couldn't. It wasn't like, oh, you can keep your name. You got to change it. It's like, but to be fair, if Wikipedia is anything to go by, apparently that name is called Hero of Pain. Hero of Pain. Like when you think about it, I can see why they named him that, because that's actually pretty cool.
It's very poetic. I like it. And it just makes me think back, you know, I'm not going to blame. I don't think it's anyone's fault that he couldn't make it work. He was injury, like, I'm not going to say injury prone. He was snake bitten by injuries. You know, it failed to launch because his body wasn't working with him at the time.
Yeah. It's and also timing, obviously, because if I don't know if obviously it's true, obviously at the time when obviously we go away in the future when obviously Finn Balor won the NXT title, apparently that was for him, but because of injuries they gave it to Finn Balor. I don't know if that's true, but I remember hearing about that when back in the day, and it makes you really sad when you think about it that way.
Well, yeah, because you could see it. You could see how that would all unfurl. You know, but look, big signing at the time for, I think at that point, you know, a large portion of the audience wasn't just watching WWE. They were watching New Japan. And so to see one of those stars, and not even just New Japan, all the promotions in Japan. So to see someone come over from that side and how they do wrestling on that side of the world over here was a huge get. And then, you know, it eventually opened the floodgates, as you said, a Finn Balor, right? They get Prince Devitt. You bring over Shinsuke Nakamura, which, I mean, you don't get a better NXT debut than Shinsuke and Sami.
That was
doesn't get better than that.
With this series, I cannot wait to go. What I love about this, I can go back and watch all these great matches, but that one I'm looking forward to the most, because even back then I watched that and I'm like, wow, that was an outstanding match. But yeah, excellent. It just happens in wrestling sometimes. Just when you get momentum, sometimes you just get bad luck, and I think that's what it was. He lost his momentum, and he was never really able to find it again. But that's that. But yeah, obviously this one, it was just a situation. Obviously he essentially came out, interrupted them. We all know where this was going. It was a setup for him to be a badass that he could take out two people, and it sets up I think a tag team match with I think Finn Balor was when he debuted. They were a team for a little while. I think I remember correctly. So, but yeah, I mean, it done its job, because everyone was, you know, for what they wanted to do with him. Let's be honest. But yes, obviously, as you said, obviously you want to talk about the last two matches. Obviously, the first one, it was kind of a cold semi-main event. It wasn't put as like one was bigger than the other. It was kind of this match, and obviously the main event, the Fatal 4-Way. Obviously, was it Charlotte? Obviously won the NXT Women's Championship literally. Obviously in NXT Takeover in a match against Natalya. Really good match. Really enjoyed that match. And against was it Bayley? I think it's crazy watching Bayley. Look how young she is. Makes me feel very old, especially when you see where it is now. And
see, I would tell you right now, Lewis would have a different thought, because our buddy Lewis has always been enamored with Bayley.
Okay.
And so for him, watching her in old NXT shows and then seeing the metamorphosis of her now, I think over time he's grown to love her more. For those of you who see, you know, Bayley's recent social media interactions with Nia Jax about let's just say her derriere, Lewis has grown to love Bayley more.
I mean, to be fair, we kind of all, haven't we all? I mean, we love, obviously we hear it was like, and Bayley was, wow, like over as hell. And I think it was only a year into her. She was only wrestling for like a year at this point. I think it was like she was quite early in her run.
She was early in her run. Still, the one thing I'll always appreciate about Bayley is her her technique is almost flawless. She is probably the most underrated technical wrestler. And I'm not talking about, oh, she'll grab a hold and submissions. I'm just saying when you put all the different skill sets in wrestling that you need to have, she is very proficient at her timing being good, showcasing her power when she needs to. She puts all her skills and uses them to the maximum capacity. So that's what I've always appreciated about Bayley. And now for me to profess my undying love for the queen, at least the queen in this house. And my wife shares this sentiment because my wife's an even bigger Charlotte fan than I. If you ask my wife who the 3 greatest female wrestlers are, she's going Charlotte, Asuka, and Bianca Belair in no order. She loves all 3. To her, it doesn't get any better than that.
That's a good list.
I will always be a fan of Charlotte's ability to take her natural athleticism, right, being a collegiate volleyball player, and pick up. We all know this is not a profession that she always wanted. This was her brother's dream, right? And she made her relationship with him mean something to the point where she made this her profession to honor him and then still be as great as she is. And I don't just mean athletically, because there are some people who love to be hated, right? Randy Orton has professed he loves to be the heel. I'm not going to lie. There are many. With my friends, I try to be as lovable as I can. And Stu will tell you that. And with people I don't like, I flip that switch and I enjoy them disliking me as much as I can get them to dislike me. I'm just being honest here. And Charlotte accepts what comes with the territory. And she lives it and she makes it her own. So everything they were able to do in this match, to me, the most traditionally worked match on the entire card, right? And if you try to think of which of these matches would fit on a 1980s, a 1990s card, this is the match. Charlotte and Bayley. It fits in any era, and it works because both women are talented. They have a great chemistry together. And this is one of those matches you don't even care what the result is. You're just happy to see that they had that match.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously you could sit there and say with the Bayley storyline of being like the underdog, kind of having like wanted to win the title, but obviously just falling short. They kind of had 2 of those. Obviously, when we talk about the main event, he had the Sami Zayn one that's kind of similar in a way, because it's like a guy that wants to win it and he just keeps coming short over and over again.
And obviously, he's still running that gimmick. He's still running that gimmick. It works.
It works. If it works, if it's not broke, don't they'll fix it. But yeah, I mean, I think what watching this match is just, it's more like, one, I sometimes wish, again, it was like, was it 10 minutes, 12 minutes? It's quite short.
I have it in front of me right now. It was 10 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, so like it was quite a short match, but I think what I like about it is just like it's a slow burn. But when it got to the end, it was really good. Like I think the way that was that amazing Hurricane Rana at the top. I mean, that was amazing. And I kind of like the idea that basically, I like the finish right at the end where I think, where she basically like hit that moonsault, tried to get a pin, and then she kicked out, and then she just didn't mess around. Just went, you know what, I'm going to hit, natural selection, 1, 2, 3. It wasn't none of this frustration stuff. She went, oh, okay, and boom, hit a finisher, end of. And it kind of showed how good of a champion she is.
I'm glad you brought that up, because to me, watching wrestling now over 30 years, I'm looking for what moment of the match would tell me she was raised by a legitimate wrestling professional. And that's the moment where it's like you could envision her father coaching her up and saying, to make this look the best it can look. When something doesn't work, immediately go back on the attack, right? Because you're a Flair. Right? Somebody breaks out of the figure 4. Ric Flair's going right back to that knee. So for something to not work for Charlotte, that, I don't know. It made me feel a way. I'm like, that's something Rick would have told her to do. It didn't work. Get right back on it. So I love that ending.
I think that's why I like the idea, basically like her experience and a kind of her ability to, like, she's a Flair. was enough for her to get off the line. Well, obviously Bayley is too, was so green and kind of new to this. So it's like that's why her storyline was so lovable. We loved it so much because it's like she learned slowly but surely, eventually found a way that eventually she did win that title, but she kept losing and losing. But every time she lost, she learned. That kind of, that's what I like about it. But obviously we've got to point out, obviously after this match, obviously, what was it? Obviously after the match, obviously Sasha Banks came out and obviously attacked Bayley. Yeah. And then was it Charlotte Flair? Was it turned face for a little while? It was interesting. And saved Bayley, and then.
Yeah, the way I look at it is Charlotte will make decisions based on whatever she views as in her best interest. And I think in her best interest in that moment was to make a statement against the boss, right? To back her down and go, you're not taking the shine off of me. See, like some people go, oh, she did the nice thing. And I'm going, no, she's asserting her dominance. Get this pretender out of my ring. I just beat up Bayley, not you. Don't gloat over my work. That's how I took it. But then again, I'm a complete mark for Charlotte, so.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it was weird because obviously, watching this was coming after obviously her Royal Rumble win, and obviously how completely different person she is now than she was back then, and obviously obviously the problem with Charlotte for me has never really been about her ability as a character and her ability as a performer. But her in the ring, because no one can deny Charlotte's probably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, women wrestlers of all time. No one can deny that. But the problem with, I think a lot of people have, is the situation is her storyline's kind of the same thing over and over again, with her being like, she's always put in a title match, and can I
propose a thought to you? Can I
of course,
pose a thought to you? Okay, so I've never asked you this, but Stu, are you a fan of comic books?
Yeah. Okay, I would say so.
I am a huge fan. I have collected Batman my whole life, right? But I'm going to expand just beyond Batman. I've also collected John Constantine my whole life as well. So, are you ever shocked? Let's get into the Marvel side of things. Are you ever shocked by Thanos' motivations? Everyone knows Thanos just wants to get rid of half of the universe. One snap. That's always what he's endeavoring. No one is shocked. There's a Fantastic Four movie coming out soon. Is anyone shocked Galactus is going to try to eat a world?
No.
Nope. And to me, that's the whole point. Charlotte is being asked, and this is where maybe I'm reading too much or maybe I'm just sympathetic. As a person, Ashley Flair is being asked to be this constant threat, always doing the most basic thing. You have one thing. You are pursuing the title. The same way your dad did. Your whole life, your whole identity is about the pursuit of the title and being at the top. It's very easy to be stale, right? Even WWF didn't even ask Triple H of that. Hey, be some snobby Connecticut guy, even though you're from the state of Massachusetts. Then we're going to evolve you into this degenerate. Then we're going to evolve you into the Game who marries the boss's daughter. Then we're going to evolve you into the Evolution. He got to go through so many iterations while still always being about wanting to be the world champ. She doesn't have that. She does not have that opportunity. She's stuck in the rut that prime John Cena was in. John, we need you to be the one that gives children hope. Because let's be fair, I will not say I always supported John Cena until I got older and I saw how much children loved him, and I went, man, I've been an asshole these last couple of years. I should have just let these kids have this. They needed their hero.
It might be. I think obviously only time will tell with that, because obviously when it gets to like the reason that we think like John Cena, we appreciate him so much now is because obviously it's a retirement tour. So we have hindsight. We look back and we go, oh wait a minute, he's actually done some really good work.
I started loving him more when he was willing to put over AJ, put over Shinsuke. Like during that era, I was like, all right, John, you're giving back. Because it did you no favors when we found out you wanted to bury the Nexus, but you're giving back now, and that's what matters. But I look at Charlotte, to bring it back to her. I look at her like Thanos. And when he delivers that line, I am inevitable. She is inevitable. She should be the one person that every female wrestler in WWE rolls their eyes like, God damn it, I just won this title and now she's getting in my face. You know, I think Rhea Ripley handled her perfectly when Charlotte came to Raw and Rhea did not back down because Rhea's already been there, done that. And Rhea can have that kind of momentum against Charlotte. I think Tiffy should be very scared because that would make the moment feel bigger. You know, I know she's got to deal Elimination Chamber, her tag match, but I need to see her be very, very afraid of Charlotte. Be afraid of the unknown because look at who Charlotte has beaten. I want to see a little self-doubt out of Tiffy.
Well, I mean, if you did do that, obviously people would sympathize more because obviously you'd be like, yeah, this is the biggest match you're gonna have, and yeah, like any person can relate to that. You'd be terrified if it was like your first. Man. But yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, I like that. I can't. This is why I brought you on to make me look at it differently, you know. But
I'm glad you did. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, it's gonna be. But that'd be interesting to see that. Obviously, when that happens on, obviously not, on Saturday. Obviously, when we're recording this on the Wednesday. But anyway, let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about what the pay-per-view's called.
Event. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talk about the fatal four-way between obviously Adrian, Neville, Tyson Kidd, Tyler Breeze, and Sami Zayn. And I love the way they built this. And I remember loving this when I first watched it, and then I watched it again. And you always worry when you watch a match you loved before, it doesn't hold up. This match definitely holds up. I absolutely, 100%. I adore this match. So good. It's booked great. Pacing's great. That finish, my God. I mean, that finish when he thought he just about think he's going to win it. He's going to win the title. And then Adrian Neville pulls out the ref. And it's just, and then the crowd were booing him. And then he took him out. And then he's basically, cheated? Not really cheated to win, but kind of took a win away from Sami Zayn. And yeah, I think that finish, I love that finish. But yeah, it's great. This match is great. I love this match.
No, I completely agree. This match, more than any other on the show, and rightfully so, made moments that matter. There were many moments that mattered. And what I loved, not every Fatal 4-Way will have the right configuration of talent. This match had two guys who were pretty unknown on a streaming or TV platform in Neville and Tyler Breeze. And then it had two veterans who I can say Sami Zayn was pretty well known because Ring of Honor had its streaming platforms. It had Ring of Honor TV. So everyone knows, if you know Sami Zayn is El Generico, you know what he's about. You know that in-ring talent. It had two veterans who could call this match in the ring if need be. I look at Tyson Kidd as Sami Zayn as having the greatest responsibility in this match, and Sami Zayn a little bit more. Tyson Kidd's responsibility is, okay, you're our vet. Make sure your timing's down. Make sure everything Neville and the other two are doing is spot on. And then Sami has the responsibility of not only being a vet, but you're also the emotional center of this match. And people they're going to be at the edge of their seat hoping for you to get that moment and get that moment. We're talking about a Sami Zayn who never got to really enjoy being NXT champion.
Well,
he won it for a microsecond in what NXT history is, and then he hasn't held a top promotion title since, right? So it makes you froth at the mouth even more for like, all right, Sami, we're going to get there. But this match hit all the right spots. Sami's the emotional core. Tyson Kidd is the stabilizer. You have Tyler Breeze, who is so talented. And, it's the right gimmick for the time because it's playing up the influence of social media and it's playing up all the right stuff. And then you have Neville, which, hold on. You have Adrian Neville, who, if he was 2 feet taller, or maybe just a foot and a half taller, we'd be comparing him to Henry Cavill. You're like, look at this Greek god with that body. Look at how gorgeous this man is. Like, it's accurate. Adrian Neville, if he was a bit taller, would be just damn near unstoppable in life. And so this match worked out really well. Everyone shined. You can't always say that about a main event, let alone a fatal four-way. And to me, this is one of those matches that's, if you want to introduce someone to NXT, like, hey, this is what NXT is about, this is one of those matches you show them.
Oh, 100%.
This is one of those matches you show them.
It's
Sorry,
just,
go ahead, Stu. I have to.
Yeah, I mean,
my daughter decided to tangle herself up in a onesie. Don't ask me how that's possible.
Okay, fair enough, mate. But yeah, I mean, I think it was just because at the time, obviously, with me wrestling wise, it's just like I was just about getting back into it because obviously I had like a couple of years where I just did watch it because obviously it was always that thing I always thought is, oh, I'm the only guy that likes wrestling here. And then I went to university, and then the guy next door to me was a big wrestling fan. And then before I knew it, I'm not alone. So I was slowly getting back into it. And obviously the network did help as well. So like I was kind of, I guess we all need this sometimes, even when you have a bit of think, oh, why do I like this? Then you have like a match comes on, you go, this is why I like it. And this is definitely this is the match that I would say if I watch this, go, yeah, I see why I like it. I like had all the spots. I think I love the bit when I think all hitting their finisher, or the bit when Tyler Breeze hit that. Was it the money shot? I think it's called. I think it's called his finisher. Hit that, and the way he was getting frustrated. I love that. I mean, I know we've seen it to death with that Tower of Doom spot, but there's a reason why they keep using it, because it always looks awesome. And that. I thought it did.
I'm not gonna ruin it for you. Okay, if I'm gonna see a Tower of Doom, give me somebody like a Braun Breaker where I could believe his power in initiating this going. Like if I'm gonna see a big slamming spot, give me one guy where I could believe the slam's coming from. That's all. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna ruin it. It was still a hell of a spot.
Okay, so you had that. That was awesome. Well, anyway, but yeah, we had that. And then obviously, again, it was the whole thing at the end with obviously Tasca had the sharpshooter. Then obviously Neville stopped it. And then Zayn done this, was it near the end, like a massive, like, was it suicide dive that Neville went over the back, that looked great. So he thought he was out. And then all of a sudden he hit the Luba kick. I said it, we started talking about this. I just love it because you like, as you said, the emotional beat, just they hit it perfectly. He's like, he's going to win it. He's going to win it. And then he doesn't. You're like, oh, yeah. And it's like, what I love it. It's good when the person that's supposed to be the good guy gets booed. They boo him because he's basically like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then he took him out, hit the Red Arrow, got the win. And I just love that shot near the end when he just gets the free when Sami Zayn tries to crawl back to try and stop it, but it's just too late. So it sets up obviously the next takeover match when they face each other off perfectly, and I love it. But yeah, it's basically what pay-per-view should be when you leave it wanting more. Like you, and that's what I ended this. I'm like, yeah, I want to go like if I was now that I have access to the next pay-per-view, literally seconds, I'll go, yeah, I'm gonna go and quickly pop that on as well. What's that pay-per-view? It's like it done exactly what a pay-per-view should do, and I love it. I just love this main event. It's great. Everyone looked great. It's a great end to the, I think, a pretty good show. Not great, but just it was solid. It was all right. You could sit down and watch it and be like, yeah, I can, deal with it. It has got some stuff you can cut out. Definitely, you can probably name 2 or 3 matches that you go, maybe shouldn't have been on the card. But it's just when you got a main event that fun and that awesome, it's like we've watched so many wrestling shows over the years. You can forgive other stuff when the main event, the last 2 main events, and the main event, obviously the Fatal 4-Way is just that good. You go, you know what? Even if the other stuff you don't love, the main event was great, so I can let it slide.
Yeah, look, wrestling fans are easy to please. I don't know what the most popular quick bite to eat is over there for you in England. In the US, it's always pizza, especially in New York City. Pizza's good unless you brutally F it up, right? And I will say there aren't many places in New York City where they F it up. So everyone's just comfortable getting pizza from anywhere. WWE, at least Triple H understood. As long as I don't F up this takeover show, the fans will be happy. And this show leaves you happy. And that's what more could you ask for? I watched something, it entertained me, I was intrigued, I saw promise in a lot of young talents. That's it. Easy to please. Thank you very much.
I think that's why I like that they refined it later on, where it's basically said, okay, so people like these really awesome like kind of matches. Maybe in these takeovers we'll just have 4 or 5 of that. Just
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't surprise me if they saw that match and went,
Yeah, they
like
had to
that
find
stuff.
the right formula. Yeah.
So it makes sense, but I think watching this makes you like very excited to watch it all again, because obviously we know what happens in the next pay-per-view. But yes, obviously just finish it off with I think I kind of done in my last 2 ones. Obviously I don't have it on the screen, so we have to kind of do it by saying it. But I got one of these tier lists. You know those people do tier lists of like YouTube stuff. Because I thought ironically I kind of decided to do it on the first one on the fly. So if you watch the first one, it sounds like I've just gone, oh, maybe I should do a tier list, like literally the day of recording. So, so then I did it on the second one. But yeah, I mean, obviously I kind of copied a list. I've got one. It's put in like, was it 5 tiers? Was it 5 tiers? You got great, good, all right, just about bearable, or get in the bin. And
so great is at the top.
Yeah. And what's it? Great, good.
So if you're asking me, I love the 2 last matches so much. I will give it good. But I look, they left me happy. So it's good for me. I could see where someone would say it's all right, but I'll say it's good.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I have to admit, at the moment, obviously, this is the last 2. They're all in good, because the Rival I liked, the first takeover I liked. I don't see any of the obviously, maybe I'm just playing my hand here, but I don't see any of the NXT pay-per-views of this era going in all right or get in the bin, because we all know how great they were. So I think, yeah, good. I mean, obviously, it's not there at great just yet, but that's the point. They're all quite kind of solid, good shows. And when it's a developmental brand, that's all you want, to be honest. It's only later on they decided to go, oh, maybe we should make this into a third brand. Then they were trying to go for greatness. But it's, but yeah, I mean, I think good. But I just don't see, it feels like I should just put great and good, and that's the only tier. I don't see any of the takeovers being all right.
Yeah, you know what it is? They also put a lot. If we're judging like a regular NXT episode, then you'll get into all right. Then you'll get into maybe some subpar stuff. But I feel like, especially because this was a Triple H passion project and his vision, I think so much effort was put in, you weren't going to get less than good. I think that's fair. You know, if you want to judge, if you judge this product, this era of NXT, if you judge it against the best WWE pay-per-views of all time, sure, then you're going to get into the lower tier stuff. But if you treat it for what it is, it's good. It's good. And we should be happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just don't see it not being in there, to be honest, because it's just like, I did read some reviews on it, and some people said you could say it's one of the weaker takeovers if you go by where, obviously, with hindsight, with all the takeovers that are going to happen afterwards, you could say it probably is the weakest. But we're talking about a high bar here of like, if that's the weakest, then yeah, I don't know, but okay, but okay, so but yeah, that's so what we're going to put as but okay, so we'll agree it's going to be we'll put it in the good tier.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, so I guess there's more to wrap it up. Obviously, this has been fun. It's really nice to actually talk to someone about wrestling again. So it's kind of nice. So I think we need to.
I've told you once. I've told you 1,000 times. I'll talk to you about anything, anytime. I love talking to you, buddy. And it's crazy. It's crazy that someone I deem, one of my closest, probably nicest human being friends I've never actually met in person. So this is always fun to do with you, buddy.
Well, it's always a situation that was it maybe the closest, but the furthest away.
There you go. I like it.
But yes, obviously, definitely, obviously, if you got a chance, we'll check out your socials, I guess, and obviously, I'm assuming the Melee games are still going, or your
So
quiz.
for those of you who don't know, quick plug. Our boy Stu is the game show champion of Pro Wrestling Melee, Pro Wrestling's longest running game show. You can find us on YouTube, Pro Wrestling Melee. We are making our return. We have many episodes upcoming and now currently scheduled. I just got to finalize Stu's first title defense. It's very difficult with the time difference. But thanks for that. And thank you for having me on. Man, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah. I hopefully, maybe, obviously, we can make this a thing. Maybe we'll see what happens. See how if you do something. But yeah, so it's been awesome. Like I say, I've been Stu Van, and hope if you put your comments on what you think NXT. Did you join us at NXT Takeover Fatal 4-Way? Let us know in the comments below. I've been Stu Van, and thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.
Ciao.